What happens when two dudes, one a retired Navy SEAL commander in Colorado Springs, and the other a hippie meditation teacher in New York City, get together to discuss living mindfully? That's a great question, because we don't know what will happen either. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with co-hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Each week, we take an authentic dive into how mindfulness continually impacts our lives, deepens our relationships, and allows us to be emotionally alive. We filter all of our conversations through the man box, where we unpack how as men we are expected to act in society, how fighting the authentic human experience is exhausting and damaging, and how mindfulness can help. If you would like to listen live, join Will and John every Friday at 12:30 Eastern Time on IG Live at handle @WillNotFear. We take each IG episode and upload them straight to this podcast. So happy you're tuning in to Men Talking Mindfulness. Now, on to the show.
Hey, guess what time it is? It's time for Men Talking Mindfulness. Thank you again for joining us, whether it's live right now and during the show. And please ask your questions and make your comments. Or whether you're watching this later, John is going to be loading up in a few minutes. Really excited about this topic. We're going to keep talking about men and our feelings and how we deal with our feelings and what our feelings are like for us. And today we're going to focus on sadness and grief and how we're processing sadness and grief. I see the frogman out there. Mindful frogman, here he comes. In just a couple moments. So again, and where's my mindful frogman? Here he comes. He's connecting. Yo, what's up?
Hey man, what's going
on? You're all
on?
Slicked back today, man. Oh my God. What's happening?
I got a little bit of a haircut. I was like, hey, I just need you to clean it up a little bit for me. I still want to grow it long, but it's a little bit too crazy for me right now.
Well, you're still adjusting, John, out of like
That's
24
right.
years in the military, so.
Yep. But soon I'll tie it in a ponytail like you, man.
Did. It took me a year, like almost a year to get this. So,
yeah.
But anyway, I mean, got hair, right? What the fuck, right? We can have a whole episode on men and our hair, right?
That's next week's topic.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Exactly. Well, good to see you, John.
You too, brother.
Yeah, it's always a fun time. I'm excited about today's topic. Check. Well, I guess we have an announcement to make. Yeah.
Yeah. We got a couple of announcements. We got our videos available on Vimeo.
Yeah.
On your account on Vimeo, and then we're going to be making this into a podcast. It should, be the next week or so. We'll have it available on all the different podcast platforms. The episodes, I think we started at episode 6 or something like that we actually started recording stuff.
Right.
So it'll look like episode 1, but technically it's to episode 6. It took us a little while to figure out how to record these so that we could have them for like permanent use instead of just on IG. But yeah, it's exciting. Excited to see where we go with this, spreading the word and breaking the stigma of men practicing mindfulness, men being aware and in touch with their feelings. I think we've spoken about toxic masculinity before, and hopefully we can break that stigma as well as that, men can be men and manly without being, that false bravado or beating our chests, and we can be in touch with who we truly are. And I think that's important, and not just for the men that we are, but for the people that we surround ourselves with, our loved ones, our families, our friends, our colleagues.
Yeah,
we will be better people for it, and those who are around us will experience the more authentic us. And that's hugely important. So, yeah, I'm excited with our being able to grow what it is we're doing and see where this journey takes us.
Yeah.
Sorry that I'm in my car again. I'm actually at a storage facility right now in Virginia. I'm actually not even in my car. I'm in a Turo. This is the first time I've done some like cross country traveling since COVID hit, and like I flew out to Virginia, with a mask on, and most of the middle seats in the plane are empty, and it's a whole new world, new experience. The Turo that I rented, like everything was wiped down, and yeah, it's I mean, it's a new world for sure.
Wow.
So
good. Like I'm really excited about, everything we've done so far, how it's been growing and changing, how our conversations have just helped me so much, and
same here, man.
and it really has been helping seemingly a lot of other people out there. Else we wouldn't keep doing this. We wouldn't keep getting as many comments and interactions with different people, like men and women. And also, like, we'll have a website as well that's going to come out, that's going to kind of host a lot of this content, as well as, like, the podcast format as well. Yeah, I mean, so like John said, we're about a week away from making all of this available. And yeah, I think it was like, I think we're on episode 18, and there were like 5 that we weren't able to capture, all. But not a big deal. I mean, we can go back and revisit those topics in later time or something like that. I think I feel like we're gonna keep coming back to like the same 15 topics over and over, like hacking in a little bit deeper, because it's like, one thing I like about being a man is we tend to keep things pretty simple, and it's like, and we kind of have, or my experience is, I typically have like the same things that kind of keep coming up and bubbling up in my consciousness and in my like kind of subtle body, if you will, that like, that it asks for a little bit of attention sometimes, and what we've created here, and what I love about what we do, is like we just create more awareness about our own lives, and where we struggle, and also the successes and the strides we've made in kind of getting out of that man box and being open and being vulnerable and being a different kind of leader, and it's been really fun. I mean, to continually explore, and here we are, like episode like 4, I guess, on feelings.
Yeah. You just said, it's been really fun, and it has been a tremendous amount of fun. I walk away from each one of these episodes energized, but I also think that I walk away from each one of these episodes expanded, like my horizons are expanded, my views on things, and then also my views internally, just in thinking about what it is we want to talk about, thinking about what it is we've experienced that we want to bring to the conversation. It forces you to do some of that introspective work, which is important, so that you truly know who you are, so that you can be your more authentic you, right? I'm loving what we're doing. Looking forward to seeing where it goes, and happy to be on this journey with you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I mean, no, really, and I tell you what, there's one thing. Well, I mean, I'll say one of the. It's like, I also, what I feel with the work that we're doing is like I'm able to reflect more. Like I'm able, like during that week where all about, we talked about pride last week, and how I can see and start to make subtle changes based on the awareness and the conversation, and through this collaboration. And also with this, it's just nice. What I love about, another thing I love about being a man is how, when we kind of cut away and or kind of crumble all the walls of bullshit that kind of allow us to be connected, like we really can be a tremendous support from one another. We really can get each other's back in a way that just feels like, whoa. I mean, there's something about like being around a group of men, what we're doing here, and really holding a good, honest, authentic, and a place of truth, that and coming from and that vulnerability that just allows us to support each other in a really powerful way, that we can fall into that space that might seem very intimidating for a lot of men, so we can even just make those small, subtle changes, so we can just be a better man, a better leader, in all aspects of our life. So absolutely. I mean, it's that fellowship, it's the brotherhood, and I don't mean to, I say the word brotherhood, and incidentally, the Navy SEAL ethos, and the SWCC, SWCC is the Special Warfare Combatant Craft Crewmen, so the guys who drive these amazing boats for us, or drive these amazing boats into special operations. They have a creed that has the word brotherhood in it. And the reason I bring that up is,
Naval Special Warfare today decided that we're going to take the word brotherhood out, and we're going to change, and we're in the SEAL ethos, we're going to change wherever it says man, we're going to change it to warrior.
Yeah.
And I've got mixed feelings about that. And you know, we are men, and that's all that there are in the special warfare community right now that are actual operators, or at least within the SEALs and the SWCS. And you know, eventually that's going to change, and that word will change. But I don't know that changing that word brotherhood is really sending the right message, because I think it's important that there is a brotherhood. I think it's important, you know, that women are able to be a part of a group of women. I think it's important that men are able to be a part of a group of men. Not that we're like having a men's party, smoking cigars, drinking scotch, and, you know, talking politics and saying, hey, we're going to run the world. But hey, it's still, there's a fellowship that is there, in that I think is important, that you're with your gender, or with those who identify as that same gender, which I think is also an important kind of note to put in there, because there's definitely similarities there amongst those who may identify as men, but who physically are not. Anyhow, I know we've got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
With sadness. So let's get into it, man.
You know, I gotta say, John, we'll make a note out there. Anybody watching, like, let's dive into that whole that idea of brotherhood one of these days, because I think because it's really, when it's there, it is. I'm sorry, I'm just loading my computer. It's really something beautiful. I mean, it is really something special.
I mean, there's you know, my wife has her sisterhood. Yeah. Both her literal sisters and her figurative sisters that she leans upon, that she talks to. And it's important to have that. It's important to have a brotherhood. So yeah, I'd love to get into that as a separate topic down the road. But I think it's tied into what we're going to talk about today in sadness. But before we do that, let's do our grounding.
Oh, man. I know. God, John, it's like we could just jump right in. But how about take it away from the car, John?
All right. And so I'll just keep it short and sweet today, because I think, again, we've got a lot to talk about. So for those who may be joining us for the first time, or listening for the first time, what we try to do is kick off each show and end each show with some type of grounding exercise, just bring our awareness to the here and the now, and bring our awareness to what it is we're discussing. And then for Will and myself, bring our awareness to what it is we'll be bringing to you. So that said, if you're willing and comfortable, I invite you to join us on this practice. And if you are comfortable doing so, nothing forced yet. We'll just bring your awareness to knowing that the breath is there, noticing your breathing in and the expansion of your lungs, the expansion of your belly, the expansion of your chest. And then as you breathe out, breath leaving your body, the contracting of your lungs, the contracting of your belly. And then invite you to be more intentional about that breath. Take a deep breath and notice that air passing your nostrils as you breathe in. Hold it. And out through your mouth. Again, another intentional breath that you're very aware of the physical sensation of. Breathe in through your nose and hold it. Let it out through your mouth. And then just think about your intention for joining us for this show. Think about why you joined us. Think about what it is you want to walk away from this show with. And know that you have to be here in the moment, listening, paying attention, both to what it is Will and I are discussing, and paying attention to what it is you're taking away from the conversation, what it is you're going to learn, what it is you're going to apply in your life. Be attentive, be aware, and be intentional. And I invite you to wrap it up with one cleansing breath deep in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then slowly start to bring some movement back into your body. And slowly, when you're ready, either raise your eyes, open your eyes, and raise your gaze. And here we are.
I know. Hey, it's amazing. Got a couple minutes of breath, and getting intentional.
So simple, right?
Ground, it really makes such a big difference. And
it
that's
does.
A big part of mindfulness. It's like being aware, using the tools, in order to get focused and stay on point. So,
right.
I think, I actually would like to read a piece. I sent you that article, John, on social work today.
Great article.
Really like a lot of research and a lot of great information went into this article. And we're going to talk about, processing, sadness and grief and how we deal with grief and sadness. And I thought it was really interesting. I mean, this article is like, there definitely is a way that we do things differently. And they break down the article and, it comes a lot from, men in society and how we're kind of been brought into society a lot of ways. And, but I thought this was really good. So this is like the top of their article here. It says, there is evidence that men are more likely than women to remain silent or grieve in isolation, engage in action-oriented forms of grief expression, or lose themselves in distractions such as working or throwing themselves into a relationship. Research suggests that men appear to be more susceptible to developing reliance on alcohol or engaging in risk-taking behaviors following a loss, and are more likely than women to commit suicide following the death of a spouse. Some studies suggest that men are more likely to use the strategies of avoidance, intellectualization, and minimization when grieving. And although research is inconsistent on the point, they may have a greater tendency to somatize emotional and psychological pain. So that would be really interesting to kind of way to kick off kind of the conversation here, because it really touches on so many of, definitely things I've done with grief, especially like taking action and diving myself into work and, maybe like, God, drinking or smoking pot or something like that. And just kind of like that, I guess you consider that just numbing in a lot of ways. But how does that hit you, or what comes up for you?
Yeah, well, a lot of it, I mean, it hits the nail on the head. I have done all that. I've boxed things up and put it away, dove 100% into work, or dove 100% into, another relationship. If I had a heartbreak, I was like, well, I'm going to fix this with a bounce back relationship, which never works.
Yeah. It's fun for a couple weeks, and then it's just like, oh, I'm still at this gaping fucking hole in my chest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's the pain that causes sadness is tough to deal with. You don't like that pain. It's uncomfortable. And I had a friend just recently who experienced some pretty deep pain from a loss of a loved one, not a breakup, but the loss of a loved one. And I said, hey, look, just be with that pain. Acknowledge it and be with it. Don't try to force it away from you. Don't push it away from you, because it's important that you're with it. There's a reason you have that pain. There's a reason you have that sadness. It's because you had a loss in your life. And if you push that away, then you can't process it. You can't mourn. You can't fix it. So I think the pain and the sadness is all part of the process. It's part of the healing process, which sounds kind of counterintuitive.
Right.
But I think it's important that we're with that pain and we just allow it to be, and don't have this perception of pain, perception of sadness, that it's a negative thing. It feels negative. It feels terrible, but it is something that is part of life. It's a part of being human. And I think we all need to experience it. We all need to process it. All need to just be with it.
Yeah.
And the other piece of that article, I don't think you just read it there.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the network that
that's
men.
exactly what I'm going to come back to next.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the brotherhood, right? That's the brotherhood that we talk about. But a lot of the time, the brotherhood is, hey, we get together and talk about sports. We talk about the weather, standard man stuff, quote unquote man stuff. But the last thing that you may do is lean on your brotherhood when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling down, when you feel the loss or pain.
Yeah, why do you think that? Why is that, John? Like, I think we know the answer, but why? In some way, why do you think what's happening?
Well, why do we not lean on one another, and then why do we not have the network? I think two things, two different answers there. One, I think it's embarrassment, fear of being judged. That's why we don't lean on one another when we're sad. The perception that we need to be perfect all the time and strong and have the answers to everything as men. Not that we as men feel that we have the answers, but we feel that as men we should have the answers. That we and then as far as the network, it's just I think the fact that women bond at a different level than men do, and feel more ready to talk with their friends about their emotions, because it's socially acceptable for a woman to not only experience emotions but express those emotions, whereas for a man it's going to be less acceptable socially to express that. So there's a lot of answers to those whys, or at least that I feel.
No, so. I love that. I feel like the network, I think is really important. Like, I think it's, I feel in my relationships sometimes with men, it's tough to develop trust. It's tough to develop trust with men because, and I feel like, and to come back to the women and how they, women are so, and they also mentioned this in the article, like women are allowed, again, we talked about this before, like allowed to express themselves emotionally and be vulnerable with one another. And I really think vulnerability is a huge bonding agent, like brick and mortar. It's like kind of the mortar that helps to really, bring bring people into a relationship of trust. And and if you're learning, and they say in the same article, it's like, we're not taught that as young men typically. We're like, just we're told typically to just like, oh, suck it up, get over it, like move on, and instead of being like, oh my God, like I'm really, really like, when I started like diving into this work, I years ago, I come back to, it's amazing. We have these profound relationships that we just keep coming back to. I mentioned this woman, Marla, like, God, it was like 20 years ago now. Literally, it's 20 years ago now that I met this woman. And like, we had this great relationship and we broke up, and I was just I was really shattered, completely shattered. And like, what did I do? The closest friend, like, I couldn't make up, nothing was making sense. No up, no down. Like, it was really hard to even go to work, even to talk to people. And like, what I started doing like, over the first couple of weeks is like, I had a friend that lived like 20 minutes away from me, and I would just, hey man, could I just come over and hang out? Like, I just don't want to be alone.
Nice.
I mean, he was like one of those brothers, he was like, we were in college together, went through a lot of shit together, and just had like, we had each other's back, and we're able to, I saw him go through some stuff as well, his relationships, and I held space for him, and that's all I really wanted to do during this breakup, or after this breakup, that I was trying to figure out who the fuck I am at this point in my life. And I just wanted to be around another good guy friend, like not around my mom or my dad or anything like that. One of my brothers was closer. Yeah, I'd probably hang out with them for sure. But just have another solid, like, someone to just sit with. and just be there, not even talk about the relationship because it's just there.
Yeah.
You know, what was so helpful for me, just to have someone to go to, you know, and just to be with in this capacity. But, you know, I really like, you know, that whole, you know, that network is, and I think that's, you know, a lot of what we're trying to bring into this conversation is creating that network for men, you know, right, in a lot of ways, or creating a, you know, within, you know, your own place. And it's like, and we keep coming back to the same things, John, like authenticity, vulnerability, you know, like, you know, and just listening, holding space, not trying to play that game of who's right, or like, you know, and like, and that really, or that competitive nature, like, and it's fun. Like, there's definitely a playfulness and competitiveness that, you know, as we mature as men, is still going to be there. But knowing that it's not like I need to fucking win, because that makes me a man, and that makes me feel like, you know, I can like, whatever. I'm more manly when I'm controlling, or dominating somebody, or winning, or, you know.
Yeah, it comes back to the conversation we had last week about pride, in that, you know, hey, pride can prevent us from feeling the true emotions that are appropriate for something that we're going through. So if we lose something, if we lose someone, you know, the appropriate emotion is sadness, and pride can turn us into the cavemen or the apes. And we're like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go beat my chest. I'm too good for pain and sadness. I'm gonna go and drink myself into a stupor, because that's what men do. And that's the socially acceptable thing to do, which is, that's ridiculous. How is that socially acceptable for you to go and drink yourself into a stupor, stumble down the road, get a DUI, whatever the case may be? That's socially acceptable? Well, technically, I mean, obviously, that part of the extreme is not socially acceptable, but you know what that can lead to. But I texted you last night about this movie that I've watched. Did you end up watching it? I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch it.
No, I haven't. It was too late.
For those watching, it's a movie that I've probably watched 100 times, called Inside Out. It's a Pixar DreamWorks production, but Inside Out cartoon that I've watched about 100 times because my daughter absolutely loves it, and then, quite honestly, as I watch it, every time I get something more from it. So the premise is that, you know, each one of us have these emotions inside of us, and those emotions in the cartoon or in the movie are actual characters. So like when the child is born, the first character that pops up is Joy, and that character thinks that they're going to kind of run things from the beginning of life all the way through, and then within like 30 seconds, the next character pop up is Sadness, and so Joy controls like the first 30 seconds of life, and then suddenly Sadness takes over, and that's when the baby starts crying. And then they bring in the other emotions. They bring in fear, they bring in disgust, and they bring in anger. And all through the movie, you know, these different emotions take control of this young girl, and then the whole premise, the whole idea of the movie is that Joy is trying to put Sadness in a box to where she has no control over this young girl. And in trying to do so, and trying to control the young girl and not experiencing sadness, she's not able to experience joy, because you have to have that balance in life. You have to have that yin and yang, right? Yeah. And if you don't know sadness, how can you know joy? It's just like, you know, if you don't know cold, how can you know heat? If you don't know light, how can you know dark? Well, if you don't know sadness, how can you know joy? How can you know happiness? So that's my quick plug for that movie. It's called Inside Out. Excellent movie, but it's really deep in that we at times will experience sadness, and we have to process it and accept it in order to fully experience joy in life. So I think that's a piece that we need to be more aware of, so that we can, when we are faced with a loss, when we are faced with pain, agony, then we're just with it. We be with it because we know eventually we will come out of it. And if we go through it properly and process it, cry if you need to,
of course.
Talk with friends if you need to, spend some time mourning and experiencing that pain, then when we come out of it, we're going to experience the light on the other side of that. It's going to be so much brighter than it would have been if we just box that pain up and put it aside and never deal with it. Box that sadness up.
Well, it's I think God, that key word is accepting it. Accepting that the loss has happened, that I'm feeling lost, that I'm grieving, that I'm mourning, that I have like a gaping hole in my heart, and then the next after accepting is like, and then being with it, and that's where we, that's where, I think men and women both, like, okay, we have an emotional experience, I'm feeling loss or pain or sadness, and then we're, and then it's like that next step is like accepting it, just knowing that it's there, and then taking that brave step of moving through it. The only way out is through, and being with it. And it's like, and it's fucking uncomfortable as hell. Like, it's really uncomfortable to feel lost, to feel sadness. Like it's but like,
but it's brave. Older, and you hit on something there, man. It's brave to be with it, to accept it. And that, as men, as humans, both men and women, we want to be brave. And a lot of the time when we talk about bravery, we think bravery is the lack of fear.
Yeah, or the warrior, the brave warrior. It's like
right.
Going into battle.
But it's not, though. Bravery is being scared and then doing it anyway. So in my eyes, bravery is being scared of sadness. It's being scared of pain, but then going through it anyway and processing it and letting it be and not trying to push it back, not trying to box it up. It's just bravery is being with that pain and that sadness, man. You hit that was perfect.
Yeah. Like, well, it's like, I mean, that's how I feel. Like when I sit with it, and it's uncomfortable. It's like, oh fuck, like I'm really having this thing happen, and it keeps changing, and I'm like going up and down all over the place, and like, and I just want to be like, get the fucking job done, like do your work. It's like, don't let this stuff bother you. But like, and what we also bring up, John, is that whole boxing it up. Like that's what really, like that can really screw us in a lot of ways, because if we're not letting this, again, having the courage to move through the pain, the grief, the loss, the mourning process, if we don't have the courage, oh fuck. Hey, John's gonna come back on in a second here. Maybe his phone died or something like that. But hopefully he can hear me. I'm going to tell a story about someone that I went to, someone that I know. I'm not going to get into any details about who he is, but, a situation and story that I saw with him and his life, and how, I met him 20 years later, and I was really interested to see who he became because of one event that happened when he was like in his 20s. So hopefully Mindfulness Frogman is going to come back on, but I'll just keep going with this story for now. And thank you for guys keep on here. So a friend in college that really loved this girl, and and they're together all through high school, I think, and then all through college, and went to different colleges. And he went to visit her in college his senior year, just like we're not far from graduating, and they're going to both graduate, like start a life together, at least he thought. And he literally walked in on her cheating on him, and he was really hurt. I just know he was hurt in some ways, but then it was like, then somehow I randomly reconnected with him through some relationship, or just like someone else I knew that we had in common. And 20 years later, he never worked through this relationship. Actually, the person that I met through him, or like that we had in common, here comes John, I think. Sorry, where's John? I'll get you in a second, Karen. So then sure enough, like I met him 20 years later again. And this woman that we had in common, or that kind of knew both of us, said like he talked about his relationship. He never got over it. And it just showed up in his relationship. Like he was like, I saw him and he was just a bitter, person, you know, like, and this guy that he was always fun and hanging out, and we, you know, just a really, really good guy, and really kind of had this exuberance for life. And it seemed to be, it seemed to be, I'm going to get John on here, and I'm going to add John. It seemed to be taken away from him, that exuberance for life, because of something that happened, that he never processed that grief, never processed that loss, you know, never like moved through that anger, never had the courage, you know, to ask for help is another big thing that happens with a lot of men, is like, and we talked about this before in other episodes, is like asking for help and not being afraid to ask for help, and not being afraid to have the answers, and, you know, and not being afraid to be confused about something that's happening to you emotionally. There he is. I don't know. I lost you. Obviously lost you. So,
dude, yeah, the universe was against us there for a second, but I think I've got it all figured out again. I don't know what happened, but it completely dropped and wouldn't let me reconnect. But here I am.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I was just telling a story about you know, packaging our mourning, our sadness. You know, I had you know, I'm not going to give all details, but, you know, a guy I went to college with, he got, you know, his girlfriend got, you know, his girlfriend cheated on him. He caught her.
I saw it. Yeah, I know. I caught all that. I heard all that and saw all that.
And to see him 20 years later, like 20 years later, and you can see it's all boxed up and bitter and like,
dude,
and just for 20 years over one situation, one woman. I'm sure. I mean, obviously, got fucking heart of ours, man. It's like, it's really intense, the feelings that come through. But, you know, if you get to know those feelings and know that, like, the heart is always attached to everything that we're doing, you know, especially pain and loss and grief, like, you know, hopefully he's woken up in some ways, you know. That was like 5 years ago I saw him, I think. And I felt really bad for him. Like, wow, dude, like,
how much energy does that take?
I could have been there for you, you know, like, we were close, and you know, not close, we played sports together and stuff, but
yeah,
you know, I was like, whoa, I felt so bad, you know. But I feel like that boxing up and holding it in and like being that stoic and like, and it just, it's pervasive in so much of the men in America, for sure. You know, that we don't give each other the opportunity to just not seem like we have it all together fucking today or this week or for the month, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to that book that I had, I don't know, a month ago when we were talking about anger or something to that effect. I forget. We've covered a lot of emotions in the past few weeks, but it was that book about the dad who thought that he had to have it all together, right? And how as a father, when he didn't have it together, that caused a different form of sadness. So it was a disappointment in himself. And I think that when we experience sadness and we don't have it all together, then but we try to hide it, then we experience a different level of sadness. It's a disappointment in ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're basically bringing sadness on ourselves twice. Sadness in the loss or the initial pain, and then because we don't have it all together and we try to hide it, we experience another level of sadness. So we're basically bringing sadness on twice. And how much energy and effort does that take first? And then on top of that, and what's the physical toll, the physiological toll? Like your heart literally is breaking. You're probably, you know, bringing extra stress on, adding cholesterol, adding blood pressure, higher blood pressure. You know, your respiratory rate, heart rate, that probably all increases. You are literally taking time and days and years potentially off of your life.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe if you're really sad, you're like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to take time off. But in actuality, like, if you're able to process that sadness and get that time back, then the life that you live is going to be that much richer and fuller. And you know, you can be with friends, you can be with family, and actually enjoy that time together because you've gone through the sadness and you've processed it. Sure, you'll still have memories of that girlfriend or your parents passing. You're still going to have memories and you're still going to have sad times. I mean, heck, Yeah, this is kind of ridiculous, but I'm going to be completely vulnerable here. Yesterday, I was listening to the soundtrack to another one of my favorite cartoons, yeah, called The Little Prince. It's another really deep one, Little Prince. But it's got an amazing soundtrack. I love the music to it. But I was driving through a parking lot, and there's an old Babies R Us. And I don't know if you know this, Will, but Babies R Us has completely gone under, just like Toys R Us has.
Yeah, the whole brand.
Yeah, the whole brand, right? So I'm like driving past Babies R Us, and I look at it, and it's closed down. It's like this dilapidated building, and I'm like, I had really good memories of going in there prior to the birth of my daughter, and going and shopping for a crib and little things. And I was like saddened by this beautiful music playing in the background as I passed by this closed down Babies R Us. And I like teared up, and I was like, this is so stupid that I'm sad right now. Box it up. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, just accept it. Be with it. Right. That was a joyful memory. It is a memory, right? And that's the thing, is a lot of these things are going to be memories, and they're going to bubble back up, and we'll get sad again, but we have to go through that sadness and process it so that we can get onto the other side.
Right.
And then even when you are on the other side, that doesn't mean you won't come back. Hey, you can even experience good things while you're sad. So you go, let's say you have a death in the family and you're going through mourning, and somebody comes over and you haven't seen them in a while. I mean, heck, this happened. I'll tell you another anecdotal story, but a few months ago, or about 6 weeks ago now, one of my old platoon buddies took his life, and I was very sad about that. Super sad, right? But even during that sad phase, my old platoon all got together on a Zoom call, and we celebrated our buddy's life. And that was good. So even as you're going through a sad phase, you can still experience happiness. Yeah. It's not mutually exclusive. It's not like you have to be sad and that's all you can experience right now. You can experience sadness and happiness simultaneously. It's pretty complex, but you can. Right. And if you allow that, the happiness can even be richer. So like that platoon Zoom call that I had with guys that I hadn't seen in like 14 years, we're all giving each other shit. Hey, do you remember when this happened? Do you remember when that happened? And, laughing up a storm. Right. But at the same time, we were all, sad. And it's pretty amazing that how rich that happiness can be if you embrace that sadness. Yeah. It's wild.
No, it's like, well, I think, and maybe with, we have like 10 minutes or so. And I definitely, there's a question out there, I think, from Karen. But I think, and because I really wanted, and let's bring this home with like, men talking mindfulness. How is mindfulness helping us, to at least, what it's done for me, John, is, and yoga, because it helps open up my body as well, which it's like all connected, the energetics of it, the physiology of it, the psychology of it, and the meditation and just sitting and being at peace and working with, certain meditation to get in touch with. It's helped me get in touch, with my, with my feelings, and also to get to know that, not even get in touch, but to get to know them, as well as be at peace with them, but also helps to process them and not be afraid of them. I think is a big part of this, and not be like, oh wait, I can't feel this way because it throws me out of the man box, and now I'm up for an attack. And it's just like, what the fuck, right? Like, so I mean, that's like, again, here is mindfulness, and that's why we do this. It's just like, because again, it's going to make us mindfulness, just becoming aware. So much just becoming aware of my thoughts. And now we're just talking about our feelings, and to be aware of my feelings, especially when they're uncomfortable, and then to know myself in this, like, it could feel like it's a storm, a massive, incredible hurricane, of like feelings and stuff. But again, if I can just be aware and sit in the center and find my breath and whatever, and then and again, accept, that what I'm experiencing, and also accept the results of those feelings, like whether I'm like crying or like or like the anger or you know, whether I need to release that emotion physically in some way through whatever it could be. And that's like, I think, you know, and again, this is why mindfulness has just been an incredible asset, and really just the meditation aspect of it. And, you know, and I've really enjoyed so much of the yoga part of it because, you know, we hold a lot of this, this tension, you know, in our body, you know, in our subtle body, they call it, or that's what they call somaticize. Like we hold it within, you know, our cells, within our organs. And, you know, and that can really start fucking with us psychologically, because, you know, I love the simple definition of emotion is the emotion, energy in motion, right? And if that emotion gets caught in our body, it's going to stay there. It's going to stay in somewhere in our body. And as our energy flows through that space, it's just going to be a little reminder, you know, and the shield that we put over top of that wound, right, is going to come out. Bitterness, anger, you know, aggression, competition, you know, like that whole like kind of fuck you attitude that a lot of men have, or that bravado, beating of the chest, competitiveness, you know, and all you're doing, you know, that the Michael Singer is you're protecting the thorn deep on the inside, a wound that you had deep on the inside. And what if and it's tough to go in after layers of years and years and years of like, of bullshit that you're putting over top of it, instead of having the courage and being brave and moving through it, leaning in once again, right? Leaning in, you know, to those feelings. Asking for help is another thing that pops up in the literature, and we've talked about many times, is just being like, I don't know what to do. Like, I need help. I have trouble processing this, whether that's going to a therapist, whether that's tapping in, you know, to a solid brother that, you know, that can hold space and that listens very well and that loves and respects you. You know, this is a really great topic, John, because like, it's like, it's you know, it's really hitting home with me, because I see so way too many men in my life, and God, I'm feeling it right now. It's just that suffer, sadly suffer and needlessly suffer because, you know, because they just don't want to, they don't want to seem like they're weak. It's a lot.
And going back to that, you know, that whole bravery thing, it takes bravery to face it. Well, it in a kind of weird twist, it's cowardly not to face it. And that's another thing is as you don't face it, and you may realize you're like, wow, okay, I'm being a coward. It's another negative thing. But you know, you talked about, you know, boxing these emotions up and putting them away. Talked to somebody earlier this week that made a great analogy. It's like when you do box these emotions up and you put them away in the basement, it's kind of like when people go to prison and they work out and they come back tougher after prison, right? These emotions come back. They're working out in the basement. They're working out in the basement. And they're going to come back stronger. And if you don't process them when they're at their weakest, they're going to kick your ass when they get out. That's a great analogy.
They almost like they gain more power. And,
they totally
and actually
do.
More power over us.
Yes.
And they start to dictate, you know, our choices instead of us being the determiner of and the intentional person that we want to be. And again, that's another aspect of mindfulness, is being aware and using that awareness to be intentional. But if we have a bunch of shit hacked away in our fucking basement that we haven't looked at or don't want to look at or don't want to process because we're, you know, I mean, I hate to use, you know, I like the whole, like, not to put another label on somebody like a coward, but it's like, you know, you got to call a spade a spade. It's like, dude, like, you really want to be a fucking man? Then, you know, in some ways, like, here's our challenge in some ways. And we're talking mindfulness, just then show up and then, you know, and work through that feeling, work through that emotion.
What's the old saying? You said show up. What's the saying? Man up, right? People say man up, and go through that sadness. Process it. You're going to come out better. You're going to come out stronger. If you don't face it, you don't process it, you're not manning up. So, man, we're coming up on the 50-minute mark. You want to walk us through a quick mindfulness and grounding, and then
one thing. I got Karen's question here.
Sorry.
There it is. Hey guys, can you talk about your turning points? When did you realize your previous behaviors, beliefs? I can't get the whole thing here. I don't know why.
Weren't weren't serving you, maybe weren't serving. All I see is weren't serving.
Beliefs weren't. Oh yeah, weren't serving you. I think we kind of touched on that, Karen, a little bit. I got to get that out of the way. I think the turning point has is there a turning point in the sense of like, when did I realize that if I keep boxing up my feelings, I'm gonna only be the same person all the time or something. I got a lot of light in my face right now. And I don't know what the fuck happened. Oh, man, I touched the screen or something. Okay. And I don't know if I have like a pivotal turning point moment. Again, thanks for my mom that I was able to cry, and, or just have my emotional life, and maybe not be afraid of it, I mean, I was just kind of weirdo in some ways and never was like too manly, like I definitely have my anger and aggression and competitive nature. But like I was never really, for me, not really scared of like feeling loss,
Yeah.
But anything with you, John, really quick before?
Yeah, I think for me, my daughter did it for me, and I think we've spoken about this in the past. But having a daughter, or just having a child, rather, it's not necessarily a daughter, but having a child, and knowing that I was responsible for that life along with my wife. We were responsible for that life, bringing that child up in this world, and letting them know that they're loved, letting them know that it's okay to be sad, letting them know that it's okay to be scared, and all these things that we've talked about the past few weeks. If I'm going to teach that, then how I better embody it. And
right.
That's, I think once I started embodying it and I started to see that embracing sadness and processing it and going through it, embracing pain, embracing these uncomfortable moments or experiences, or emotions in life, it actually changed who I was, and it changed how I felt about things. And mindfulness had a lot to do with that. It allowed me to process it properly. So that's, I think that was the big turning point for me.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, Karen. Thank you, and John, thanks for sharing. And I think I think just even going back a little more, that I think my turning point was again that breakup. Like it literally, my whole life changed.
Yeah,
there's a whole turning point in my life. So it's like, and I really, to be and live a creative life, like you have to be emotional, or you have to be able to access that emotional space, because like that's where you're working. That's where all the art comes from. Is from the heart a lot of ways, and the mind, but that mind-body connection. If this is closed, then like, what am I just going to draw fucking, graph paper all the time, just fucking squares, square.
Another great analogy, man. I love all the analogies on this show.
I know. All right, well let's bring it home, John. We got a couple minutes and we'll kind of close, but so close your eyes, find your seat once again. If you're sitting down, maybe just kind of you need to release your jaw, or like, roll your head around a little bit and get some comfort. Great. And, first I just want to thank everybody for showing up and being a part of this show. John and I are really, really grateful for that. And let's just start next with just taking an exhale out. Big giant inhale. Really fill a big balloon. Inhale more. Hold the breath. 3, 2, and really slowly exhale out the nose. Calmly, smoothly, softly, nice, relaxed exhale. Let's do it again. Inhale, bigger, more breath. Keep pulling it in. Pull. Very good. Hold gently. Let's stay relaxed. Exhale, relaxing. Exhale out the nose. Easy. And do it again. Inhale. More. Hold that breath. Exhale, nice and easy. Let's put both hands over our heart for a moment here. And know that this is like, breathe into this space. This is where this heart is so much power. So much of who we are really is in this heart space. And life and the heart and emotions, they're fluent, they're changing all the time. It's not about always being happy or joyful, or any of those positive emotions that we, try to continually present our life to be so often, but without, like we talked about earlier, without the sadness and the disappointment and all those negative or seemingly negative feelings, then we don't have any of the joy or any of the happiness or any of the celebration. So they work in a relationship to one another. But notice there's kind of like they're opposite poles, and where we are is in the middle with this heart, with our breath, and continually encouraging all of you to, find a little bit of breath every day, find, short or longer meditations throughout the day. And this is going to help us to find that courage to tap in, and instead of boxing away our feelings, be with them, breathe with them, and move through them is how we get to the other side and begin to experience that joy and that exuberance and the happiness that life can be. And actually, it'll make it brighter, bigger, and more beautiful, because we understand what pain and suffering and loss really is. So take a few more breaths here in. Exhale, feel your heart exhale out. Good, feel your heart breathe into it. Exhale, let it go. And we'll do one more. In breath, in breath. And let that go smoothly. Awesome. This was really wonderful, John. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all everyone that's out there that has been a part of this. I think we got one more. Oh, great job, guys! So Karen, or no, that was Jackie said great job. So
all right,
hey,
hey,
we got Jackie approval.
Jackie,
like we got a female approval. Oh my God, it's like we must be doing something right, John. I'm just kidding, but thanks again, my brother. We're back next week. Again. We're going to have this content available in more places very soon. So thank you. If you're tuning in, then we invite you, please, if this has been helpful to you, or I imagine it's going to be helpful to somebody else. So share this with your friends out there. Invite them in this conversation. And again, John, thanks, man. Such a great.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. I love these conversations. Like I said at the beginning, I always walk away feeling more charged and having a deeper understanding of who I am. So thank you for always offering up this space. And I love you, brother. Thanks for this, and have a great weekend, man.
I'll catch you soon.
Right.
Thank you. Have a
Take
great
care.
weekend. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for joining Will and John on Men Talking Mindfulness. If you enjoyed the show, please like and share it with your friends and family, and please, we would appreciate a review too. Until next time, this has been Men Talking Mindfulness. Thanks for showing up.